So I am here today to talk about personal branding. As you might imagine, as a career coach, I'm doing a lot of work with individuals on getting ready for career advancement. Sometimes they're in the exploration process, but it's all about how we're marketing ourselves, which is certainly very applicable to those of us that own small businesses. So I'd love to just start off. Can anyone tell me who they see on the screen? Oprah. Oprah. So what do we know about Oprah? Just shout out any things that you know about Oprah. What comes to mind when you see this smiling face?
Entrepreneur.
I'm sorry. That's great. You guys are all shouting at once.
Wealth.
Wealth.
She came from nothing.
Came from nothing.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
Passionate. Very powerful.
Passionate. I'm sorry?
She loves bread.
She loves bread?
The Weight Watchers.
Oh, okay. I was like, no one's ever said that before. That's great. She loves bread. And books. She loves giving stuff away. Everybody look under her chair. No. Right? Okay. What do we know about this individual? The Rock. He's fit. Right?
My boyfriend.
He's your boyfriend. It's wonderful. Becky's got a new boyfriend. Does anyone know what he's most recently been involved in?
Movies.
He's in movies.
He was wrestling, now he transitioned to movies.
Wrestling. He transitioned to movies. Anyone with small children in the room?
Oh yeah, the Disney film.
So he is in the new Moana film. He's the character Maui in the new Moana film, right? So whether or not you have positive or incredibly positive opinions and impressions about these two individuals, no one can deny that they have very strong brands. And certainly in Dwayne Johnson's case, he has changed his brand over time and appealed to different audiences. But everyone can recognize these individuals, and depending on who they're looking to appeal to, they have a really strong following, right? So everybody knows Oprah, and people follow her book club, and they follow her magazine, and she has her own television station, and people do that with a lot of loyalty. And in terms of The Rock, you know, he has created, again, quite a following. Everybody followed him as a wrestler. He was then an actor. I was going to say serious, but I'm not really sure that Fast and the Furious classifies as serious acting. But certainly in Moana now, he has thousands of children, my house included, following him down that path. So they have very strong brands, and no one can deny that, regardless of how you may personally feel about their profession and their positioning. So your brand, according to Jeff Bezos, who runs one of the strongest brands in the world, is what people say about you when you leave the room. So one of the biggest things that I work with clients on is understanding that if you don't have a very strong sense of what it is that you do and bring to the market and the value that you can have for your customers, clients, members, they have a sense of that. So if you're not communicating it, it's still being received. So the idea is to be thinking about how it is that you truly want to be known, what type of value you choose to bring, and make sure that people have that same sense about you even when you're not there to communicate it. Today's, oh, there's little question marks. I'm not sure why. Maybe we're going to talk about determining your brand. Maybe we'll talk about communicating your brand, and then also living your brand. These are the three things that I want to make sure that we cover today, again, as it relates to promoting yourself as a professional, and then certainly the business that you are able to provide. How many people in this room have a really strong positioning statement, or elevator pitch, as we used to call it? Okay, so I'm seeing people like, okay. How many people in this room run your own company or are responsible for bringing in revenue in some way, shape, or form? Okay, so you should all then have a very strong positioning statement, and I'm going to help you create that today. Because I appreciate you being the bold one to say like, sort of, right? So she was owning up to it, so I won't put anyone on the spot to tell me now. But what I'd love to do is walk through a bit of an exercise, because it's incredibly important that you know who you are and who you serve, and that you're able to articulate that to other individuals so that, again, when you leave the room, they're able to articulate that to the people around them and continue that communication loop and essentially become your brand ambassadors. So hopefully everyone has some type of paper in front of them. If they don't, raise your hand. You can use your smartphone. What I'm looking for you to do is create 3 columns. And at the top of column 1, you're going to put the word noun. At the top of column 2, you will have adjectives. And column 3 will be verbs. So you can do that on your phone, just have 3 different sections. There's, you know, go ahead. I'll give you permission. Use one of these, just flip it over. So nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Let's start with the adjectives column. I want you to start to write down words that describe who you are and what people admire most about you. What do people love about you? Whether it be a current boss, an old coworker, the feedback that you receive from your clients, potential customers, your family members. What do people love and admire most about you? Perhaps you are ethical, experienced, detail-oriented. Maybe you're very cool under pressure, tenacious, compassionate. These are adjectives. In the nouns column, I would love for you to indicate different roles or titles that you have held, whether formally or informally. What is it you would consider your reputation? What about your reputation are you most proud of? Bless you. Are you a strategist, a troubleshooter, a problem solver, a turnaround artist? What type of formal titles have you held? Have you been a sales manager? Have you been an operations leader? Perhaps you've been a customer service representative. Under those nouns, you may also include products or services that you have the greatest passion for. What have you been involved with? What do you sell? What do you love to be associated with? What roles do your colleagues most often associate you with? If there's been another person that you've met in this room before today, and I ask them to tell me what you do, what are the likely nouns that they would offer in that conversation? So you're starting to record some nouns. And under verbs, I'm asking if you could have just a single impact on your work world, what would it be? Essentially, what is your value proposition? What is it that you're bringing to the table? Your impact, the results, the advantages to working with you or purchasing your product. Maybe you bring technology concepts to reality, or you leverage market opportunities. Perhaps you allow people to unleash their potential. Consider for each of these, nouns, adjectives, verbs, how you would describe yourself and also how others may describe you. If I pulled your spouse, partner, best friend aside and I asked them to describe you, which words would they be using? I can tell you right now, if you asked my husband what I do for a living, you would probably get different nouns that I would necessarily associate with that. He'd get the resume word, correct? So, if I asked your spouse or partner, what is it that this individual does? What are their title? What would they say? So hopefully you have a list, perhaps short, maybe mid-sized list around some different nouns, adjectives, and verbs. And now we're going to put them together into a sentence. And by no means will this create the greatest positioning statement you've ever had, but it's a great starting point so that certainly next time I was in the room, more people would sort of raise their hand and then maybe even get a very bold, courageous wave. So here's what we're going to do. I have school-age children, so I like to break everything down to really simple sentence structure. So what you see here on the screen is going to be your sentence structure for creating a baseline positioning statement. Now, why am I using the word positioning statement? Because we've sort of tossed out the idea of an elevator pitch, and I'll tell you why. An elevator pitch was built off of the idea that you would be trapped in the elevator with the CEO or with a prime ideal customer, and you would have 30 seconds to pitch to them. Let me assure you that if you are ever stuck in the elevator with someone, the last thing that you should do is talk at them for 30 seconds. That's not going to get you very far, right? So this idea of an elevator pitch is much more appropriate for standing up in a room like this and introducing yourself. If you have a one-way loop of communication where the audience doesn't have the opportunity to ask questions or re-engage with you, that's what's great for a 30-second elevator pitch. But every day in real life, when you're introducing yourself to people at this table, it's a positioning statement that you need. It's one or two sentences that very cleanly, crisply, and in a memorable way identify who you are and the value that you bring. So that's a positioning statement. And the start of that positioning statement can look like this. You want to choose one or two nouns that you like the most out of your list, 2 or 3 adjectives, and 1 or 2 key verbs or sort of verb statements about the value that you bring. And we're going to start to put them together like this. As a noun, My adjective, adjective, and adjective help to verb. Some examples to give you a sense as you're beginning to formulate your own sentences. I am a master process innovator and storyteller with deep attention to organization and detail. As Cleveland's top resume writer and trusted career advisor, I engage professionals in the pursuit of their true potential, providing the tools and promoting the mindset to take their career to the next level. I am a tenacious revenue generator, aggressively developing a continual pipeline of new clients and surpassing sales targets. I am a project manager, and my facilitation and attention to detail with killer follow-up help to bring the company toward their goals, help to deliver on time and under budget. Everybody getting some sense of a statement in front of them, even if it feels messy? Is anyone willing to share their messy statement to receive some real-time coaching? Yes?
Sure. As a risk analyst, my honesty, commitment, and decisiveness help to create comfort.
Wonderful. Tell me more about comfort. What kind of comfort do you create as a risk analyst?
Well, as a risk analyst, because most people nowadays face cyber risk concerns and it causes them to be afraid of taking next steps, I help create that environment where they feel safe, that they can move forward and not have to worry about the disasters that are waiting for them on the next step.
Sounds kind of scary, doesn't it? So is this specific to technology?
Yes.
Okay, so let's make sure that we're incorporating technology there so that I can understand the type of comfort you're creating is in relation to my interaction with technology.
Okay.
And then is there another word for comfort? Anyone help him? Yes? Trust. Okay, what else do we think of when we think of being comfortable? We're all, again, we're all engaged in business. When you're, I, for example, have to access a lot of, pay no attention, I have to access a lot of other people's online accounts often. My clients have me go into their LinkedIn account because they don't want to upload information themselves. And so I have to have, and I don't even know the word for it, it's like an internet privacy feature so that the gurus at LinkedIn don't know that I'm accessing 100 people's accounts. But in any event, so when I think about the type of comfort and the engagement that you have in technology, what is it that makes me feel safe? Safe is another word, certainly, as I'm accessing these accounts. I'm sorry? Peace of mind. Here you go. Welcome, come on in. Anything else? Or it's peace of mind. How would we put peace of mind and technology together to really kind of make the last part of that sentence punch a little bit more? Security? PC mind.
I saw that on a billboard.
PC mind. Can you share, I'm sorry, what was your name?
My name's Ken Banger.
Ken, can you share with me again the start of your sentence before we get to the comfort?
As a risk analyst, my honesty, commitment, and decisiveness help to create comfort.
Help to create, okay. How about help to create technology peace of mind? Does that come a little bit more? How do people feel about that? Does it make you feel warm and fuzzy? Do you understand what that means? Technological peace of mind? That sounds better than technology, thank you. Technological. I'm a resume writer, I know a lot about grammar. Technological peace of mind. Tell me what that makes you think of when you think of technological peace of mind. Some people are looking confused, which means we're not quite there yet, because we want people to immediately have a sense of what that can mean to them. Can you give me an example of something that you might do for someone like myself who's constantly accessing things on the internet I should not be?
Well, the first thing I would do is figure out what are the dangers you face by doing that. Determining what risks you actually, what's important to you that we need to protect. That is always my start.
Keeping business owners safe from danger. Love it. Okay. And so what you just did there, Ken, was accidentally you gave me your tagline as well, which is fantastic. So what we like to do is, in addition to a positioning statement, and I'll talk about this in a bit on how you can kind of pull one together for yourself, we have a positioning statement which tends to be more of the formal side of things, or more of the sentence that I just offered here. So again, for my example, as Cleveland's top resume writer and trusted career advisor, I engage professionals in the pursuit of their true potential, providing them with the tools and promoting the mindset to take their careers to the next level. My tagline is, though, that in short, I unlock the cage to unleash your potential. because you're highly unlikely to remember what I just said in the first half. Does anyone remember even a word of the first sentence that I just said? And I've repeated it to you 3 times already. Probably resume, right? Resume, there's something about potential in there maybe, right? But when you have a tagline, that's what sticks in people's mind, because that's what they're gonna walk away and say, I don't know what she does, but she unlocks cages and I wanna know more about it, right? So you keep business owners, you said, what was the last thing we said? Business owners away from,
Safe from danger.
safe from danger. I wanna talk to Ken, don't you wanna understand what that means? So he's gonna give me his first formal statement. He's a risk analyst, he has comfort and decision making, and what was that, you were decisive? Commitment, thank you. Commitment, and he's decisive, and he works to provide technological peace of mind. And so you're like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting, but when he tells me that he keeps business owners safe from danger, now I want to engage in a conversation with him, okay? So both elements are very important and relevant to how it is that you talk about yourself in different settings. I would encourage you to take this baseline structure, and again, if you're working with nothing, this is the best way to get started. Just go ahead and plug the words into that sentence and it gives you a place to begin. And then as you saw us just walk through with Ken, you're starting to probe and ask some different questions. Like, okay, the best question, or one of the most common right off the gate is, are there any words in here that I would consider fluff? So I look at resumes all day, and if I see one more person tell me that they are, have excellent written communication skills, I'm gonna blow my head. It can't happen any longer, right? I'll go into a room of people and I say, okay, raise your hand if you have great communication skills. And every person in the room, especially job seekers, right? They're all gonna raise their hand. Okay, then that becomes something that's not identifiable and unique to you, because every person on the planet, whether they actually do or not, claim that they have great communication skills. So make sure that the adjectives you're using are really unique to you and really showcase some specific value. Again, when you're getting into that, looking at how other people perceive you, that's why it's great to ask, well, what would my friends say about me? Part of my brand is being very empathetic and incredibly direct. And you've probably picked up on one or both of those already in the way that I speak. So there are a lot of other attributes about me. I would like to believe that I'm articulate, unless you ask me to say the word technological, and then I just sort of lose it. I tend to be sarcastic, which is sometimes good or bad. I tend to have an overly confident approach to speaking in front of rooms of people, which is also happening right now. But empathy and directness are two things that I think is a unique combination that when I talk to the people in my support system, both professionally and personally, that they really call out as like, that's what I've always known you for. That's what I come to you for. When I want a cheerleader, I go somewhere else. When I want someone to tell me the truth and give me that harsh reality that I need to hear, they're coming to me. That's where my friends are coming to. Okay, so try when you're looking at adjectives to be as specific as possible and stay away from fluff words that I would call. In your noun, again, you can use a formal title. Ken just shared with us risk analyst. That's perfect because it's descriptive. But if your title is operations manager, then you might want to get into a little more specifics about what type of industry or the size of companies you do that for, because there's a large scope that might apply and you want to be as specific as possible. If you work in marketing and own a marketing firm, I need to understand who you're marketing to. I can't simply know that you're a marketing professional because it's not specific enough for me to walk out of the room and then know who I should introduce you to the next time I meet someone who needs a consultant, right? And then that verb is the piece where you really start to pull them in, and it's usually with the verb, as you saw with Ken, that we are able to kind of trip upon a tagline. Because when you really get people talking and I say, so what? That's a common question I'll ask folks, like, great, so you create comfort. So what? So why? Where? What kind of comfort are you creating? Well, it's peace of mind. In what space? In the technology space. Okay, now we're really kind of getting into some more words there. So oftentimes if you work with a colleague or someone else at your table, with a partner, family member, friend, and you have them ask you these probing questions, give them a sentence and say, does that move you? No? Okay, what piece of it seemed boring? Ask them what words they heard. 30 seconds later, it will be shocking how many words people completely forget off of what you've just said, which also speaks a little bit to how likely your friends and family are to listen to what you're really saying. But you say like, okay, I'm gonna say a sentence to you and I want you just to think about which words stuck out to you the most. And then when they repeat them back to you, know that while you may be familiar with this person, an unfamiliar person, a stranger that you're running across in an elevator is likely to remember those very same words, and make sure there's the ones you would like to have them remember. Again, the tagline is a bit more tricky. It's one of my favorite parts of working with clients to kind of help them how it is that you can shape something that's going to engage people enough to think, God, I want to know more about that. One of the project manager examples that I have up here, let's see if I can find it quickly, was one of my favorites. Oh, that process innovator I talked about. So their full statement with their tagline that we created, I am a master process innovator and a storyteller with deep attention to organization and detail. I am here to turn your chaos into bliss in the most unexpected ways. I know this individual and I want to hear more about that, right? Right? So think about creating some verbal branding elements for yourself that are going to draw people in and want them to question more and engage in a conversation with you. Because I would much rather say something like, I unlock the cage to unleash your potential on an elevator, because when I step off that elevator, that person starts following me and says, well, can you tell me more about how you do that? If I spit at them for 30 seconds, giving all the, which was fantastic, thank you so much for introducing me, but if instead I gave that introduction, I'm a master certified resume writer, and I do this, and I'm a thing, and I'm in Forbes, people are like, okay, that was great, and then they just get off the elevator and go about their day, right? So think about engaging people with your written branding elements. We also want to make sure that any time that you're speaking, whether it be a one-on-one basis or in a large audience, that you're bringing clarity and consistency in your brand. I mentioned a moment ago that part of my brand is being empathetic and direct, and a little bit sarcastic, right? So you can see that and feel that in who I am, even if I didn't say that out loud. If instead I was standing up here and I told you that my brand is to be a little bit introverted, and I really like to think through things and take very thoughtful consideration in any decision I make, it doesn't really connect, because I just did an impromptu example right here in the audience. If I'm someone that needs to really give a lot of thought before I make a decision, it doesn't make sense that I would have just asked someone to put me on the spot like that. So you have to make sure that there's consistency and alignment in the brand that you are presenting across the board. Certainly when you are out speaking to groups of individuals, to customers, to prospective clients, but then also how you represent yourself online. So this is where we begin to cross over from verbal elements into the written elements of our brand. What you can see on the screen are 3 examples, just screenshots, some older than others, of online platforms that I participate in. On the top there, you can see Twitter. The middle section is my LinkedIn profile, and the bottom is just sort of a cutoff of my Facebook page for my company. Can you start to tell me, what do you notice about anything that you're looking at there? Just draw attention to anything that you see or notice about this particular slide.
Use the same picture.
Same picture? The lion theme, the logo is consistent. The terminal tower, yes. Why do you think the terminal tower is there? Do you notice anything else up here that would make that relevant? Cleveland's top, right? So part of my brand is being Cleveland's top. And so I have Cleveland represented, right? And you see Ohio up there in the top version. What else do you notice about this? Anything that you can pick up when you're looking at any one of the 3 or the 3 combined? Yes?
You also have very minimal color. You do punch color of the lion and your top. But other than that, it's very crisp black and white. So if somebody were to actually print something off your resume and off the site, it would be crisp black and white.
That is correct, yes. So, and that's sort of, quite honestly, an after effect. Because my logo has a strange gold color in it, it's sort of hard to pair things with that. So yes, I tend to do a lot of black and white then to be in contrast with that without pulling away from the color of my logo. I have an unnecessary amount of pride in my logo. It took me a long time to create that. And as a result, I wanted to be, I like to draw a lot of attention just to that piece of things. It's my own problem. But anything else that you can pick up about what you're seeing here? I'm smiling.
You have a different tagline on each platform.
Do I?
Well, not in a bad way. I mean, in a good way. Like, I mean, you have different things. Like LinkedIn, for example, you've added the unlocking the cage to unleash your potential. I mean, when I look at that, I kind of think, I mean, if I'm looking at Twitter, it's going to be, I'm probably not looking at you on Twitter to hire you to do my resume. I'm kind of looking for more social media tweets and things like that.
Okay. So that, I would say, would be unintentional if that's part of what you're seeing. So I have Cleveland's top resume writer up here, and then you're seeing Cleveland's top resume writer. I agree that the unlocking your cage piece is here only on LinkedIn. And here what you're seeing, because you can't see the bottom half there, you could start to see it says Cleveland's only Academy certified. So it gets a little bit lower in there. But so yeah, so you're seeing a lot of consistency in what you're looking at, and it's also very simplified. You also, it's unlikely that you could look at any 3 of these platforms and not immediately be aware of what it is that I do. Now, what you should understand, and I always like to talk to people about marketing from this perspective, is that these are not the only things that I do, right? So I'm beyond a resume writer. I'm a career coach. I provide branding expertise to individuals. I do consultings for corporations, on LinkedIn profiles for individuals. I'm all over the board, but this is the way that I brand myself. And simply because I choose a positioning statement that narrows me in even just to the Cleveland market. I have clients across the country, but I choose to position myself, to market myself to the ideal place that I'd like to be. That does not detract people from coming to me if they don't fit into that perfect scenario. In fact, it makes them interested because they're like, well, if she's great at that there, I have to imagine that she could help me in Utah. Okay? So when we market really exceptionally, it's not about blocking off people that are outside of our target. It's about really honing in and making sure the majority of people interacting with us are exactly who we want. How many people in this room have been to Starbucks? Okay? You don't have to tell me how far outside of that age range you are, but how many people here are not, I'm supposed to be somewhere, I gotta go, are not within the ages of 25 to 35? You don't have to tell me how far outside you are, just, right, okay? Outside of 25 to 39, actually, excuse me, outside of 29 to 35. 25 to 39. Okay, and some of the same people who had been to Starbucks, right? So Starbucks' target market is actually 25 to 39. Everything they do in their marketing is to try to drive those individuals to come into that establishment. It's that sort of hipster look in terms of their environment, the building itself, the storefront, if you will. It's selling some type of unicorn. What was this? Like a unicorn? Oh, that looked gross, right? But that marketing is hitting in to that target market. Those are the people they're trying to attract. But when someone who is outside of that age range, I assume that you are younger than 25, and that's probably why you weren't able to raise your hand. But when you're outside of that market and you step in, did they say, oh, no, you're not our favorite person, you need to leave, right? They served you coffee, correct? Or whatever it is, frappuccino that you came in for. And it didn't deter you from walking in the door. Did you still want Starbucks coffee? Did you believe somehow because you were outside of the age range that the coffee would not be good for you? Right, okay? So they're marketing to get the people they really want in the door to come in that door. But it's certainly not deterring other people who have an interest in that same type of value from coming in. So don't feel because you niche yourself, because you're branding to a specific marketplace, because I'm saying that I'm Cleveland's top resume writer, that does not stop me from coming out to Elyria and talking to a bunch of small business owners about branding, okay? It just makes sure that a whole lot of people in Cleveland who need resumes are coming to me. Definitely make sure there are other elements of your verbal and written brand that you want to be considering. We talked a moment ago about clarity and consistency. We've also talked about how your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. So you need to make sure that even the unconscious portion of your brand is being taken care of. Several examples are up here on the board. I would love to see hear other examples folks may have. Voicemail, that's a big piece of it. If you call me, which I personally find a little bit annoying, but it works with my brand. If you call me at the end of my little, hey, leave a message, it says, have a courageous day. Because courageousness is a huge part of my brand. At the bottom of every email I send, it says, live courageously, comma, Kris. Okay, that's a big part of my brand. And I'm giving you subtle cues that this is where I stand and what I stand for. That's my mantra in life. And I'm trying to live it and breathe it in everything that I do. So there's consistency in the voicemail that you hear. My business cards have the same logo that you're seeing all over. It's a little bit slow to take. All over here, my business cards are reflecting that same level of information, the same color scheme, the same professional appearance, right? So there's some business cards, when we look at different ways to represent people on paper, there are some fields, as you would know, that are much more conservative than others. When I'm working with individuals in finance, it is likely that they will have a very conservative, appropriate business card or tagline or email signature. When I'm working with someone who's in the recording industry or in graphic design, they're going to be on a different spectrum. It's still going to be professional, but it's unlikely to be conservative. We're going to go more into that creative, innovative space because it's part of their brand, and we want that to be consistent across the board. We look at different thank you notes. Anytime that you're engaging with people, I'm still a big fan of handwritten notes. I think it can be incredibly meaningful and really make an impact on individuals. So I send certain clients and obviously all of my referral partners, gifts at different points throughout the year. And every time they're getting a handwritten note from me. But it's not on smiley paper because smiling is not part of my brand. Although I did have that in the pictures, right? I need to look approachable. But smiling is not a part of my brand. Being super happy is not necessarily the core of my brand. It's on very professional paper that I would anticipate my job seekers would be using to communicate to a potential employer, right? The wardrobe, you need to make sure that you're always looking consistent. Now, I say this in a room full of people fully acknowledging that if anyone sees me in the grocery store on a Saturday morning with 2 toddlers in tow, it is unlikely that I will be dressed appropriately, but I need to work on that on my own. But you want to make sure that your wardrobe is matching the image that you're creating as well, that you're dressing appropriately. If you're proposing yourself to be a very strong professional, then you need to look professional. You need to be playing the role. The gestures that you use, the way that you conduct yourself, how straight you are sitting up, where you're sitting at a table, whether or not you are engaging with other people when you first walked into the room. If you claim yourself to be someone who is strong at marketing and a great networker, and then you come in the room and you're not engaging with anyone and you haven't introduced yourself to a single soul, I'm less likely to assume that that's something you're an expert in. And certainly eye contact. We all know that the strong handshake and great eye contact is the way to really instill credibility and trust with other individuals. People do business with folks that they know, like, and trust. So you want to do everything you can to be clear and consistent to help to establish that trust factor sooner rather than later. So lots of different areas and ways to sort of refine and look at our brand. Today we've covered, again, maybe, determining your brand, communicating the brand, and living your brand. What I would encourage each of you to do is to decide a single takeaway that you've had from this conversation that sort of turned a light bulb and said, you know what, I want to make sure I work on this more. Are you going to continue to refine your positioning statement? Because you can take yourself through that exact exercise we did. Spend some more time brainstorming nouns, adjectives, and verbs. Spend some more time putting it together in a sentence structure. It certainly does not need to follow that sentence structure, but it's a way to just get something to start with. Are you going to test your positioning statement? Maybe you like what you came up with today, but you're going to go out there and test it on a few people, either that know you or maybe prospective customers, right? Give them a chance and see how they respond to the information. Maybe you've decided you need to take a step up with the web or continue what you're doing for your website on the mobile app. Or maybe you realize that your social media platforms are not consistent, or they need to be audited because you have a social media platform wherein you are choosing to be a bit too personal and is not representing the right professional look. So you certainly want to be aware as a business owner, anything that you have out there on the internet can be accessed by others. So don't think just because you're not friends with a particular client that they can't access or see pictures of you doing incredibly inappropriate things. And it's not always the obvious inappropriate. Be careful about how you're talking about politics, religion, controversial topics, because that may or may not turn off your clients. It was perpetually shocking to me, and I'm not getting into a political discussion whatsoever, but prior to the election, how many people were willing to go onto social media and make constant statements about where they stood? And the people that I knew doing that who owned their own business, you are immediately turning off, statistically, you are turning off 50% of the people that you engage with just by going out there and saying what you may be. Now, if that's part of your brand, maybe you have some type of political platform and that makes sense. If you are, for example, I don't even know what they call those companies that are looking to grow marijuana somewhere in Toledo, right? That's then it makes sense that you would be political. But if it's not associated with what you do, I would stay away from that topic. Make sure that other people are not tagging you. Google yourself, please Google yourself, if that might be your takeaway. Like, I'm going to Google my name and see what's out there because maybe there's some information that I didn't even know people were looking at. I encourage my job seekers to always Google themselves at least once a month because new information is coming out. And I don't know that the friend I was just with over the weekend didn't decide to tag all kinds of pictures that I'm not interested in having other people see, right? So take away at least one action item that you're going to work on to improve or generate some more consistency in the brand that you are projecting to others. Here's some information about how to connect with me. Would love to connect on LinkedIn. Is probably the best place for me because that way we can continue to share articles and ideas about branding and whatnot. But if you have any questions after today, this would be the best way to reach me. Happy to sort of open up to the group to any thoughts, insights that you've had, or additional questions you may have about branding.